Hello, hello, everyone. How are you today? Welcome to the fifth episode in our series on non-sales authors that you should be paying attention to. And that was my co-host, Liam, saying hello. I hope that wherever you are, you had a great week. And if you're watching this on recording, I hope that your day, your night, your afternoon, whenever you're listening to this is going well too. As you can see, I've been kicked out of the office. I'm back in the dining room, but that's all right. We're going to dive into a great author today, and we're going to wrap up this series. And also want to let you know that next week, I'm taking the week off. We will not be doing the LinkedIn Lives next week. We're going to be coming back the week after that, and we're going to continue to be here every day at 11:30 Central. But next week, I need a little bit of a break, but also I'm pretty excited. We are releasing season 6, the first episodes of season 6 of Beer, Beats, and Business, my podcast. So be sure to check that out. So hello, Heather. Good to have you on. Thanks for stopping by on a Friday. And so let's dive in, though. Let's look at the author that we are going to be finishing up with today, and that is Sherry Turkle. Now, Sherry Turkle is a researcher, has written a number of books, both popular and more academic, looking at the space, the social media space, but really more how human beings engage with technology and how they interact with each other using technology. 2 books we're going to look at today, which are really heavy. So, of course, it's fun trying to hold him and these books. But we're going to look at Alone Together and Reclaiming Conversation. And so, hey, we're going to see what happens if we push down by all those toys that I put out for you. This could go well. It could be a complete disaster. Who knows? Thanks, Annette. He is a very cute coworker. By the way, if you haven't played the coworker game yet, for all of you who are parents, describe what your children do, but use the word coworker instead. Okay. Use the word coworker instead of child, and you'll get things like, my coworker screamed until I picked him up. My coworker was a complete whiny pain in the butt until I gave him a bottle. So it's kind of fun. But anyway, so we're going to look at Sherry Turkle. And one of the things that's been really valuable about Sherry's work is it really has helped inform a lot of my work in looking at where technology, especially social media, is going to play a role in the sales process. And what was really interesting, especially Alone Together, which came out about 10 years ago, she had been a kind of an early advocate or, kind of a cheerleader for social media, kind of like right in the early 2000s. And she was also the one who started to do some research on some of the negative impacts that we were seeing with social media. And so I'm trying to formulate this the right way. What really I think her work does is it reinforces that we have to really wrestle with using these tools as tools, meaning they're not just going to replace huge swaths of our life, but we also can't ignore them, because I think it's really easy to kind of come down on one end or the other as far as the spectrum. Is technology and social media, are they beneficial or are they detrimental to how we engage with each other? And I think this really is a case where the middle path is the one to go, is the one to follow. And so Alone Together, I think what's really interesting is if you actually look at the title here, I think this kind of describes the main thesis, why we expect more from technology and less from each other. So if you think about kind of 2011, Facebook was really starting to ramp up. We were seeing social media sites and even, kind of MySpace and some of the Second Life, some of the online platforms. And so it was really interesting because I think people were kind of freaked out about what that meant for the future, because we just saw this big ramp up going on. What's really interesting about this is it's really kind of 2 books. The first half kind of looks at not social media, but really how do we interact with robots and fake people, for lack of a better way of saying it, like whether that's caregiving robots for the elderly, or robotic pets, or what about a robotic spouse, a robotic girlfriend or boyfriend. So she was looking at why a lot of times people really prefer to engage with technology, with robots, as opposed to other people. Why it's easier, why it actually doesn't require as much I guess effort, right? Because you didn't have to worry about uncertainty. There's no fear of them going away. So she really looks at that, the first half. And then the second half, which is the place where I kind of plug in more, is again how she's examining the use of social media. And what's really interesting is she's not really looking at a business context, much more about kind of just people in their everyday lives. She looks a lot at children, which is, I think, something that we rightly are concerned with, the impacts of social media on children. I don't think we really have an answer to that. And we was like, screen time and social media, it's fine for kids or it's bad for kids. Like, we don't know. Like, it's not been long enough. But one thing that she points out, which I've always found really interesting, is that for preteens and teenagers, especially, trying to define identity, you are just destroying that piece of paper. Good job. In that, sorry, let me get this. Okay, trying to define their identity in a time and place where their every move is broadcast to their peer group is really challenging. So it made me realize that in business, and this is, I think, happens a lot. We look at, for example, digital natives. We look at somebody who's 25, 27. I mean, you could be probably in your 30s now and still be a digital native. But we go, wow, they just get everything about technology. They're going to be a master at it. We're going to have them on our social media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they also don't have kind of the good fortune to have built a lot of skills, whether that's, again, personal identity or just the ability to interact and engage with each other in a kind of a safe environment, without those pressures, without knowing that they're going to have their every move, every thought tracked, all that kind of good stuff. Hey, buddy, help a brother out. Come on. As a co-host, he always thinks all the attention should be on him. So anyways, that's why I thought it was interesting. I will say this about Sherry's books. I mean, she's definitely an academic. There's a lot of research, which is great, but it does get to be a little long. All right, let's see how we do here. All right. Go off camera there for a second. All right, so that's a good way to go into our second book, which is Reclaiming Conversation. This is the more recent book. And so this is where she's really looking at some of the impacts of kind of social media and our phones and texting. And really, even though what her research found, again, she was, I think, kind of like on the negative side of what technology was doing. But basically, she was seeing that the ubiquitous nature of technology, even though it's going to be a part of our life, we have to find maybe a healthier way of integrating it, because it can really short circuit attempts at creating self-identity, sharing empathy, right? Something that I talk a lot about, how to create empathy in the sales process, and just developing communities. And what's interesting is, so this came out in, I think, 2015. Let's make sure I'm saying the right date here. 2015 is when this came out. So if you really look at, from 2011, when All Together came out, 2015, we're in kind of a weird area, because I think we're starting to see some backlash. Not that people are using Facebook less. In fact, I think it's kind of fascinating. We'll talk about it in a moment. Why people are like, Facebook's horrible, but yet, millions and maybe billions of people are on it every day. But I think we're starting to see that, hey, there might be some negatives. I mean, here's a reality. This is not even a political statement, though it sounds like it is. Recently the bipartisan committee, the Intelligence Committee and the Senate, found that there was, tampering from, Russia into the United States' election, and a big part of that was through social media. So like it's really, I think, telling that all of a sudden our interactions, our engagements with each other kind of are not as secure as we thought. So I think where this leads us though for business is, again, something that I talk about a lot. How do we use technology and digital communication, LinkedIn, Facebook, social media platforms, texting, our cell phones, in a way that helps us as opposed to hurts us? Interestingly enough, she talks a lot about how parents can help children understand how to use technology. And I think that this echoes what kind of more experienced professionals who maybe are not digital natives can help digital natives understand. That, again, even though digital natives have the technology acumen, they might not have the experience just in communication and engagement. One thing I've always found in teaching professionals how to use something like LinkedIn, for example, what's interesting is the younger professionals get the technology side and the tactics and all that, but it's usually the more veteran, in this, let's say it's a sales training, the more veteran sales reps who might not be as conversant with the technology, but they get the etiquette of, okay, how do I interact with the person? How do I build a relationship? What's the value add I can put here? Hi, cutie. All right. And I think that's something very useful, but no matter where you're at. If you're a little younger, go, hey, maybe there's, some experience that I need to develop, or, I can get mentored in as far as just general etiquette and relationship building. And if you're a little more experienced, it's like, hey, I'm going to connect with some younger professionals who help me more with the logistics and the nuances of using these different technology platforms. And what I think is really important to remember in any of these discussions, and I think more than anything, what I really like about Circle's work, and even if you just find articles that she's written or stuff, is it helps inform the conversation, whether if you're having it internally at your company, internally in your head, again, about how you're going to use technology, how you're going to use these tools with each other and in your own life. And, Sherry gives a couple examples in Reclaiming Conversation of how to kind of improve your ability to engage. And there's a couple things I think are really important that we can take as takeaways. First of all is multitasking really doesn't work, right? As I multitask trying to keep a small human being alive and deliver this message, the reality is I'm not doing either of them at 100%. We can't multitask. So, one of the things I've loved about having time to take care of Liam, and love is in quotes. Like, this is also really tough, is like putting aside my phone and going, no, I'm not going to just, see him in the corner of my eye and check my news feed or check my email. So really, I think we are being called to really be disciplined in how we spend our time and, more important, our attention. I think we're also seeing that something she says, which is kind of a tautology, but the way you get better at building empathy and having good conversations is having good conversations. But her point is that it's kind of a muscle, like you've got to work it out. So even just going, hey, there's times where I should engage through email. There's times where I can use digital tools to talk to prospects and clients. We have Zoom calls right now. And yes, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so we can't go to a coffee house. We can't go to a physical meeting with people, but eventually we will be able to. And I think what we are seeing in this time is the strengths of using, for example, Zoom calls, LinkedIn Lives, video, all these digital platforms, but we're also starting to see the weaknesses of them. And so, be honest with that. Be honest where maybe you're just hiding behind either email or texting because you're trying to make it easier for yourself. You're afraid of maybe a client not being happy, whatever it is. The other thing I think that she does a great point she makes is that there's a lot of power in solitude. And I've heard the statement too, that one of the problems with technology right now is that we don't get a chance to be bored, right? We can always look at our phone. We can always pull up video. We can always look at Facebook or, whatever it is. And there's a lot of value from solitude and from boredom and from introspection, self-awareness. He's getting his stuff in the kitchen. It's all good. So giving yourself some space to do that, especially in a professional sense, is really important. I mean, I'll be straightforward. One of the reasons that I'm taking the week off next week from running LinkedIn Lives is like, hey, this takes a good chunk of time every day, and I'm not getting some space that I could maybe use during this odd time to not only take care of myself and my business, as far as right now, but also maybe do some planning and investing. I don't even know, because I haven't taken a lot of downtime. So being aware that, hey, maybe you need to generate and create that downtime for yourself. That can be really, really important. So those are a couple ideas that I think you can pull from Sherry Chuggerl's work. Again, we're looking at today Alone Together and Reclaiming Conversation. There's so many other good books out there. I guess the place where I'd wrap up our series this week is just reminding you that business books and professional sales books are great. Books on entrepreneurship are great. I think that you need to read those. You need to learn and invest. But it's still just a very slim slice, a thin slice of the available knowledge that's out there. And some of the best insights you'll get are when you can take an insight, an idea from a different sphere of knowledge, a different discipline, and apply that to your business and go, oh, what's interesting is that idea that I got by reading a psychology book or a history book or a book on gardening actually is going to make my business better. And so that's why I wanted to run this series. I've got a whole bookshelf over there with other books that we could go through, but this will give you a start. If you're ever looking for a book to read on a specific topic, especially more professional, but I said I read quite widely. I try to review books quite widely. I review them wildly. No, widely. I mean, I've got books on quantum physics on my blog, so I've put the website there. And besides that, again, if you're watching this recording, thank you for taking a few times. If you're with me live today, have a great weekend. This is a very strange time. It doesn't feel like Friday. I don't know what day it feels like right now, but I hope that you get a chance to spend time with your family, maybe without the pressures of work and everything else that's happening. And put the phones away, put the news down, and just spend some time with the people that you can, that are hopefully pretty important to you, and hopefully are safe and relatively sane. We're all getting a little squirrely. As I've said every day, please don't go out. I mean, it's we've seen that over 50,000 people have passed away because of coronavirus. That's a lot. I mean, imagine a sporting event. Imagine going to a stadium or a baseball game or a football game and looking around, what we put into a professional sports stadium. Imagine that being then empty, right? And everybody there dying. That's kind of what we're dealing with. So stay inside, stay safe. If you do have to go outside, be careful. And make sure you're saying thank you to the people that are really keeping things running everywhere, from the garbage men and women and the postal workers and the cashiers and the delivery drivers and the people that are still working in the food chain, making sure we can eat, the people that are keeping things running. So I'm so grateful for all of them, and make sure that you express some gratitude. They actually, I do this a lot. Like I just said to the UPS driver yesterday, they look at you kind of funny because they're not used to it, which I think is kind of sad. But just look and say, hey, thank you for working today. I really appreciate you. Keep things moving. And the UPS driver looked at me a little funny. And he's like, hey, man, no problem. You got to keep the world moving. And so, I thought it was a great attitude, but make sure you express that gratitude today. And also, of course, be patient, be kind, take care of one another. Thank you so much. I will see everybody the first Monday in May, whatever that is. So again, I'm going to take next week off. But if there's anything I can do for you in the meantime, please reach out to me. And when we get kicked off in May, there's going to be some great sessions. If you can share it with your networks, super appreciate it. So thanks a lot. Have a great day. Bye.